Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, opening your eyes, and before your feet even hit the floor, you already feel lighter. Not because anything outside of you has changed. Not because you suddenly got more money, a new job, or that person you've been waiting on finally called you back, but because you chose something different. You chose happiness. Now, here's the problem. Most people think happiness is like a prize. You win at the end of the race. They think it's somewhere out there waiting for them once they've checked all the boxes, the house, the relationship, the car, the career, the approval. And yet, how many people do you know who have all of that and are still miserable? That's because happiness isn't waiting for you out there. It's right here. It's in how you think, how you move, how you show up for yourself every single day. But here's the catch. Most people never tap into it. Why? Because they're too busy chasing things they can't control. Too busy blaming the world for what they don't have. Too busy waiting for permission to feel good. So tonight, I want you to ask yourself, what if you stopped waiting? What if you could wake up tomorrow and decide no matter what's happening around you, that you're going to be happy? That's what we're diving into. Not surface level, Instagram quote, happy. I'm talking about the kind of happiness that's unshakable. The kind you can carry into the chaos, into the setbacks, into the days that don't go your way. Because that's real happiness. That's everyday happiness. And it starts with you. Most people walk through life believing that happiness is something they need to earn, something they need to go out and capture, like a trophy. They chase it in relationships, thinking that if they just find the right person, they'll finally feel whole. They chase it in success, thinking that if they can just climb high enough, collect enough, or impress enough people, they'll finally be content. And then they get there, or close enough to touch it. And the truth hits them, it still doesn't feel like enough. That's because happiness is not something you can outsource. It's not hidden in another person's arms or waiting at the finish line of your goals. Happiness is an inside job. It begins with you, and it ends with you. Think about it. If happiness truly came from external things, then everyone who had wealth, beauty, or fame would be the happiest people alive. But you know and I know that's not true. How many times have you seen someone who has everything others dream of? Money, status, influence, and they're still miserable, lost, or worse, self-destructive. That tells you something powerful. Happiness isn't about what you collect. It's about what you cultivate inside of yourself. The challenge is that most of us have been programmed to believe otherwise. Since we were kids, we've been conditioned to think happiness is a reward. Do your homework, get a gold star, work hard, earn a promotion, be likable, get accepted. And while those things feel good in the moment, they don't last. They fade, and then you're left chasing the next gold star. Happiness that depends on outside validation will always slip through your fingers because it's not truly yours. The only happiness that lasts is the kind you build from within. So how do you do that? You start by recognizing that happiness is a choice. It's not always an easy choice, and it's not always a comfortable one, but it's a choice nonetheless. You decide to stop letting circumstances dictate how you feel. You decide to stop giving other people the power to control your emotions. You decide each day that no matter what's happening, you will look for the opportunity, the lesson, or the sliver of good that exists. And yes, it does exist, if you're willing to look for it. Let's be real. Life will test you. You will face disappointments. You will have days when everything feels like it's falling apart. In those moments, happiness isn't about plastering on a fake smile or pretending everything is perfect. It's about anchoring yourself in something deeper. It's about reminding yourself that your worth isn't tied to your situation, your bank account, or the approval of others. When you understand that, the chaos loses its grip on you. Now let me challenge you with this. Think about the last time you told yourself, I'll be happy when, maybe it was, I'll be happy when I lose 10 pounds, or I'll be happy when I get that job, or I'll be happy when I finally find someone who loves me. Here's the truth. Every time you put happiness on the other side of when, you rob yourself of happiness. Now, you set yourself up to keep chasing a moving target. Because once you get that job, you'll want the next one. Once you lose 10 pounds, you'll think about the next 10. Once you find that person, you'll worry about keeping them. It never ends. But if you stop and decide, I'm going to be happy here, now in this moment, you break the cycle. You start to realize happiness doesn't live in a future version of your life. It lives right where you are. That doesn't mean you stop striving. It doesn't mean you sit back and settle. Growth is important. Ambition is powerful, but you can pursue growth while still being happy in the process. Think of it like climbing a mountain. If you only allow yourself to feel joy when you reach the top, you miss the entire journey. But if you learn to enjoy each step, each challenge, each breath you take along the climb, you're happy all the way up. And here's the beauty. When you reach the top, the view is that much sweeter because you didn't waste the entire climb being miserable. So how do you cultivate that kind of happiness daily? Start small. Start with gratitude. Not the fluffy kind you write once a year when someone reminds you, but the daily practice of looking at your life and finding something to appreciate. It could be as simple as the fact that you have a body that carries you, food on your table, or the chance to start again today. Gratitude shifts your perspective. It teaches your brain to focus on what's working instead of what's missing. And the more you train that muscle, the stronger it gets. Another way is to pay attention to the conversations you have with yourself. Most of us walk around with an inner critic that's brutal, unforgiving, and relentless. That voice tells you you're not good enough, not attractive enough, not successful enough. And when you buy into that voice, happiness becomes impossible. You have to learn to interrupt that narrative. Talk back to it. Replace it with a voice that empowers you rather than tears you down. Because if you wouldn't let a stranger speak to you the way you sometimes speak to yourself, why are you allowing it in your own head? And finally, take ownership. Happiness is your responsibility. Nobody owes it to you, not your partner, not your boss, not your parents, not your friends. The moment you stop expecting other people to make you happy, you reclaim your power. Because if someone else can make you happy, that means they can also take it away. But when you build it from within, no one can touch it. Every day, you have a choice. You can choose to wake up and let the world dictate how you feel, or you can choose to wake up and take control of your own state of mind. One of those choices keeps you stuck on the hamster wheel, always chasing, never catching. The other gives you freedom, real freedom. The kind of freedom that lets you walk through life knowing that no matter what comes, you're grounded, centered, and yes, happy. And that is what it means when I say happiness is an inside job. It's not about what you have. It's about who you are, how you think, and how you decide to live each day. Your mind is the command center of your entire life. Every action you take, every choice you make, every emotion you feel, it all begins with the thoughts you allow to dominate your headspace. Most people don't realize it, but the way you think is either building you up or tearing you down every single day. If you want to be happy, if you want to feel powerful, if you want to create a life you actually love living, you must learn to master your mindset. Because here's the truth. Your mind can either be your greatest weapon or your biggest enemy. Think about how often you let your thoughts run on autopilot. Maybe you wake up and the first thing that comes to your mind is, I'm tired, or I don't want to deal with today, or I'll never catch up. That inner dialogue sets the tone for everything else that follows. If you start your morning already defeated, already negative, then don't be surprised when the rest of your day feels heavy. But if you learn how to take control of those thoughts, if you can flip the switch, you'll be amazed at how different life feels, even though the circumstances around you haven't changed. The stories you tell yourself are powerful. If you walk into a challenge believing you can't handle it, guess what? You won't. Not because you weren't capable, but because you already convinced yourself of failure before you even tried. On the other hand, if you step into that same challenge with the belief that you can figure it out, you give yourself a chance to succeed. That's how mindset works. It doesn't magically remove the obstacles in front of you, but it gives you the strength and resilience to push through them. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people lose their jobs on the same day. Person A says, "This is the worst thing that could have happened. I'm doomed. Nothing ever works out for me." They spiral into despair and spend weeks paralyzed by fear. Person B, on the other hand, says, "This is tough, but maybe it's a chance to pivot. Maybe this is the push I needed to chase something better. They feel the same sting, the same loss, but their mindset allows them to move forward rather than stay stuck. Both people had the same experience, but their happiness and their future will look completely different. Why? Because of the mindset they chose. That's why mastering your mindset is so crucial. It's about training your brain to see possibilities instead of problems. It's about focusing on what you can do instead of what you can't. And it's about refusing to let negativity dictate the quality of your life. Notice I said training your brain because this isn't something that happens overnight. Just like you train a muscle in the gym, you have to train your mind with consistent practice. One powerful tool is gratitude. It sounds simple, but it's one of the fastest ways to shift your mindset. When you make a habit of focusing on what's good, no matter how small, you rewire your brain to notice positivity instead of constantly scanning for what's wrong. And the more you do this, the more natural it becomes. Start with 3 things every day. Write them down. Speak them out loud. Feel them. It doesn't have to be huge. The coffee in your cup, the sunlight on your face, the fact that you made it through another day. Gratitude doesn't erase your struggles, but it strengthens your perspective. Another tool is the way you talk to yourself. Most people are brutal with their inner dialogue. They say things to themselves they would never dare say to someone they love. I'm not good enough. I always screw up. I'll never get it right. When you repeat those lines over and over, you start to believe them, and your actions will reflect that belief. If you want to master your mindset, you have to take control of that voice. Start replacing those destructive thoughts with empowering ones. Instead of I can't, try I'm learning. Instead of I always fail, try I'm still figuring it out. It might feel fake at first, but over time, your brain adapts, and those new narratives become your truth. You also have to protect what you feed your mind, what you consume, whether it's social media, the news, or the people you spend time with, shapes how you think. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, comparison, and drama, your mind will reflect that. But if you fill your head with knowledge, positivity, and inspiring voices, your perspective changes. Pay attention to who and what you allow into your mental space. Ask yourself, does this feed me or does this drain me? If it drains you, it doesn't belong. Let's also talk about resilience, because mastering your mindset doesn't mean you'll never have bad days or negative thoughts. You will. We all do. Mastery is about how quickly you bounce back. It's about recognizing when you're slipping into destructive patterns and having the tools to pull yourself out. Instead of staying stuck in a spiral for weeks, you learn to catch yourself in hours or even minutes. That's power. That's freedom. And here's a big one. Stop waiting to feel motivated before you take action. Most people think they need to wait until they feel inspired to start. But here's the secret. Motivation doesn't come first. Action does. When you take action, even when you don't feel like it, your brain catches up, you build momentum, and momentum creates motivation. If you sit around waiting for the perfect mood, you'll waste your life in hesitation. Mastering your mindset means doing the thing, even when your emotions are screaming at you not to. Every day, your mind will try to test you. It will offer you excuses, fears, doubts, and all the reasons why you can't. And every day, you have a choice. Believe it or challenge it. Happiness doesn't come from ignoring problems or pretending life is perfect. Happiness comes from strengthening your mind so much that when challenges show up, they don't knock you down for long. So ask yourself, what kind of mindset are you building? One that keeps you small, reactive, and at the mercy of circumstances, or one that makes you strong, adaptable, and unstoppable? Because at the end of the day, your mindset is the filter through which you experience your entire life. Master it, and you master everything else. One of the biggest thieves of happiness is the constant battle we wage against things that are completely outside of our control. We exhaust ourselves trying to change people, trying to predict the future, trying to bend the world into something it was never meant to be. And the more we grip, the more we struggle, the more frustrated and defeated we feel. The truth is, most unhappiness comes from resisting reality. We don't suffer because life is unfair. We suffer because we refuse to accept that some things are beyond our reach. The moment you learn to control what you can and release what you can't, you free yourself. Think about how much mental energy you waste on things that aren't in your hands. You get angry at the weather, traffic, or the way someone treated you. You replay conversations in your head, trying to figure out what you should have said differently. You worry about what might happen tomorrow, next week, next year. All of this is energy you'll never get back. You're draining your power in areas where you have none. And while you're busy obsessing over the uncontrollable, you're neglecting the one thing that is fully within your grasp, yourself. Let me make this clear. You cannot control the world, but you can always control how you respond to it. That is where your power lives. Life will throw curveballs. People will disappoint you. Situations will blindside you. You don't get to choose those things, but you do get to choose your attitude, your actions, and your perspective. And that choice makes all the difference between being consumed by frustration and standing strong in peace. Consider this. Imagine being stuck in traffic. You can scream, slam the steering wheel, curse every driver in front of you. But will that move the cars? No. All you've done is raise your blood pressure and ruin your mood. The situation is the same, but your experience of it depends on the choice you make. You can either fight what you cannot control or release it and focus on what you can. Your breathing, your music, your patience. That small shift transforms not just that moment, but your whole day. This principle applies everywhere. In relationships, you cannot control how someone else behaves. You cannot control whether they respect you, whether they stay, or whether they meet your expectations. What you can control is the standard you set, the boundaries you enforce, and the way you show up for yourself. The moment you stop trying to fix or force people into who you want them to be, you reclaim your happiness. Because here's the truth. When you tie your peace to another person's choices, you give them the keys to your emotional state. That's like handing someone else the remote control to your life. And the worst part is, they don't even know they're holding it. Take it back. In your career, you can't control every outcome. You can't control whether your boss sees your worth, whether a client signs the deal, or whether the economy shifts overnight. But you can control your work ethic. You can control how much effort you put into learning, improving, and showing up consistently. You can control your decision to keep moving forward even when circumstances don't cooperate. That's where resilience is built. Not in waiting for perfect conditions, but in acting powerfully within imperfect ones. This mindset also protects you from unnecessary suffering. How many nights have you lost sleep over something that hasn't even happened yet? How much joy have you lost rehearsing worst-case scenarios in your mind? Worry is an illusion of control. We think if we worry about it enough, somehow we'll be more prepared. But all worry really does is steal your present. You end up living the pain of something twice, once in your imagination and then again, if it actually happens. What would happen if instead you release the need to control the outcome and focus on what you can do right now in this moment? It's not about being passive or careless. Releasing what you can't control is not the same as giving up. It's about being strategic with your energy. If you pour yourself into the wrong battles, you burn out. But if you direct your energy into the things you can influence, your discipline, your attitude, your habits, you become powerful. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start being the architect of your life. There's also peace in acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean you like what's happening. It doesn't mean you stop striving for change. It means you acknowledge reality as it is without wasting energy fighting what's already true. From that place of acceptance, you can make clear, grounded choices. Without acceptance, you're too busy arguing with reality to actually move forward. Think of it like standing in quicksand. The more you thrash, the deeper you sink. But if you stay calm, release the panic, and focus on the small steps that actually help, you stand a chance at climbing out. Here's the challenge. Ask yourself where in your life you're trying to control the uncontrollable. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's your past. Maybe it's a future that hasn't even arrived yet. Write it down. Look at it. Then ask yourself, is this in my control? If the answer is no, let it go. Redirect your energy to something that is, it could be your health, your habits, your mindset, or even just how you choose to interpret the situation. That practice alone can change your life. And don't underestimate the power of surrender. Sometimes the greatest strength you can show is not in pushing harder, but in releasing your grip. When you stop fighting the tide, you allow yourself to float. You allow space for clarity, new opportunities, and unexpected outcomes to emerge. Control feels safe, but it's often an illusion. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means trusting yourself enough to know you can handle whatever comes. At the end of the day, your happiness depends on where you place your focus. You can waste your life trying to micromanage every variable, or you can take ownership of the one thing that has always been yours, yourself. When you control what you can and release what you can't, you find freedom. You stop carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, and you start walking through life lighter, clearer, and yes, happier. Because true happiness doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from knowing you don't need to. Happiness is not an accident. It doesn't just show up at your door one morning like an unexpected gift. Real lasting happiness is built brick by brick, action by action, habit by habit. If you want to feel joyful every single day, you can't leave it up to chance. You have to create the systems in your life that naturally lead you there. Too many people wait for happiness to appear, when in reality, it is something you design. You don't stumble into it, you build it through the choices you make daily. Think about it. Most of your life runs on habits already. From the way you brush your teeth, to the route you take to work, to how you wind down at night, your brain is wired to conserve energy by repeating patterns. Those patterns are either serving you or sabotaging you. And here's the thing, small habits compound. They either compound into strength, clarity, and joy, or they compound into stress, negativity, and burnout. That's why building habits that fuel joy is one of the most powerful decisions you can make. Let's start with the body, because your physical state is the foundation of your mental and emotional state. If you neglect your body, don't be surprised when your mind feels heavy. Movement is medicine, and it doesn't have to mean hours in the gym or training like an athlete. Even 10 minutes of moving your body, walking, stretching, dancing, lifting, breathing, can shift your mood, release stress, and flood your brain with chemicals that make you feel alive. Joy requires energy, and energy comes from taking care of your body. If you wake up every day sluggish, drained, and stiff, how are you supposed to feel happy? But if you fuel yourself with good food, hydrate, and move daily, you're literally wiring your brain for positivity. Now think about your mornings. The first hour of your day sets the tone for everything that follows. If you wake up and immediately grab your phone, scrolling through other people's lives, bombarding your mind with news and notifications, you're already starting from a reactive place. But if you create a habit of beginning your day with intention, whether that's meditation, journaling, reading, or simply sitting in silence with your coffee, you give yourself space to anchor into peace before the chaos begins. A powerful morning routine is like putting on armor. It doesn't mean the world won't throw challenges at you, but it means you'll be prepared to face them with a stronger state of mind. Habits that fuel joy also include the way you connect with people. Human beings are wired for connection, yet so often we isolate ourselves behind screens, thinking a few likes or comments will fill the void. They don't. What fuels happiness is real, meaningful connection, making time to call a friend, having dinner without distractions, sharing gratitude with someone you love, even small acts, smiling at a stranger, giving a genuine compliment. Holding the door can lift your mood more than you realize. Joy multiplies when it's shared, but you only experience that when you make connection. A consistent habit, not an afterthought. Another powerful joy-building habit is doing something that challenges you. It may sound counterintuitive. How can discomfort lead to happiness? But think about it. When was the last time you felt truly proud of yourself? It probably wasn't when you were lounging on the couch or scrolling your phone. It was when you pushed through something hard. Maybe you finished a workout, learned a new skill, spoke up in a meeting, or faced a fear. Struggle creates confidence, and confidence creates joy. That's why building the habit of leaning into small daily challenges, Taking the stairs, starting that project, having the tough conversation fuels happiness in a way comfort never will. And then there's reflection. We live in a world that's always pushing us to do more, faster, better. But when you don't pause to reflect, you miss the joy of what you've already created. Journaling, gratitude lists, even 5 minutes at night asking yourself, what went well today, can anchor you in appreciation. Without reflection, life becomes a blur. You're always racing toward the next thing without ever enjoying the journey. But when reflection is a habit, you train yourself to notice wins, beauty, and progress that would otherwise slip past you. Let's also talk about boundaries. Yes, boundaries are a habit too. Every time you say yes to things you don't want to do, every time you let toxic energy into your space, every time you let work consume your personal time, you drain your joy. Setting boundaries consistently is not selfish. It's self-preservation. It's making the conscious choice to protect your energy so you can invest it where it matters. Joy doesn't survive in a life where you're constantly overcommitted, overstimulated, and overextended. Building the habit of saying no when necessary is one of the most liberating choices you can make. And then there's the habit of presence. Too many people live everywhere except the moment they're in. They're replaying yesterday's mistakes or rehearsing tomorrow's worries, but they're not actually living today. Joy only exists in the now. You can't feel it in the past, and you can't feel it in the future. You feel it right here, in this breath, in this moment. Presence is a practice. It can be as simple as putting your phone away when you're with someone, noticing the taste of your food instead of rushing through it, or pausing to actually feel the sun on your skin. These small acts of awareness bring a richness to your life that busyness will never give you. Here's the truth. Happiness doesn't happen once in a while. It's not some big event that shows up once a year. Happiness is the product of what you do daily. It's in the habits you create, the routines you repeat, the choices you make without even thinking about them. If your habits are draining, your happiness will be too. If your habits are empowering, your happiness will grow stronger every day. So ask yourself, what are your habits fueling? Are they fueling stress, negativity, and exhaustion? Or are they fueling energy, confidence, and joy? You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Start small, one habit at a time. Swap one draining pattern for one that gives you life, and then another, and then another. Before you know it, happiness won't feel like something you're chasing anymore. It will feel like something you're living, because you've built it into who you are. Happiness isn't found in sitting still. It's not hiding in your comfort zone where everything feels safe, predictable, and easy. Comfort might feel good in the short term, but it rarely gives you joy that lasts. Real happiness comes from progress, seeing yourself grow, evolve, and become stronger than you were yesterday. If you want a life filled with meaning and fulfillment, you have to choose growth over comfort again and again, because comfort will keep you the same, but growth will change you into the person you're meant to become. Think about the times in your life when you felt most alive. Was it when you were doing something effortless, or was it when you pushed through something difficult? Maybe it was finishing a degree, learning a new skill, raising a child, or running your first mile. None of those things were easy. They demanded energy, focus, and discipline. But when you finished, when you looked back at what you overcame, you felt proud, you felt strong, you felt joy. That's because growth and happiness are tied together. Comfort might give you a temporary high, but growth gives you fulfillment, and fulfillment lasts longer than any fleeting pleasure. The trap most people fall into is mistaking comfort for happiness. They think, if I can just make life easier, then I'll be happy. So they avoid challenges, avoid discomfort, avoid anything that feels like struggle. They stay in jobs they hate because leaving is scary. They stay in relationships that don't serve them because being alone feels uncomfortable. They stick to routines that keep them small because the unknown feels risky. But over time, that comfort turns into restlessness. Deep down, they know they're capable of more. Deep down, they know they're stuck. That stuck feeling is not happiness. It's the cost of avoiding growth. Growth requires discomfort, and that's not a bad thing. Discomfort is the sign you're expanding. It means you're stretching beyond your limits. Well, think of it like going to the gym. If you only ever lift the lightest weights, you'll never get stronger. Growth comes from adding resistance, from pushing your muscles to adapt. Life works the same way. When you take on challenges, when you face fears, when you step into the unknown, you're building the emotional and mental muscles that create a deeper sense of joy. But here's the thing about growth, it doesn't always feel good in the moment. It often feels messy, uncertain, and hard. That's why so many people quit. They think discomfort means something is wrong, when in reality, discomfort is the clearest sign that something is right. It means you're moving forward. It means you're not stagnant. It means you're breaking out of the shell that's been holding you back. If you want real happiness, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. One of the biggest fears people face when they choose growth is failure. They think, what if I try and don't succeed? What if I look stupid? What if I can't handle it? But here's the truth. Failure is not the opposite of happiness. Failure is a pathway to it. Every failure teaches you, sharpens you, and prepares you for something better. Failure is feedback, and the only real failure is refusing to try. Growth asks you to take risks, to fall, to get back up again. And with each step, you gain confidence that no one can take away. Let me ask you this. When you're old and looking back at your life, what do you think will bring you more peace? Knowing you stayed comfortable or knowing you gave everything you had to become the best version of yourself? Comfort might protect you from short-term discomfort, but it also robs you of long-term fulfillment. Growth might be harder in the moment, but it creates a legacy of strength, resilience, and purpose. And purpose is where happiness really lives. So how do you start choosing growth over comfort every day? You don't have to make giant leaps all the time. Growth happens in small, consistent steps. It could be speaking up in a meeting when you normally stay silent. It could be saying yes to an opportunity even though you feel nervous. It could be waking up 30 minutes earlier to work on yourself. It could be finally having the hard conversation you've been avoiding. Every time you lean into discomfort, you expand. And every time you expand, you feel the joy of progress. Another way to lean into growth is to reframe how you see challenges. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? That shift turns obstacles into opportunities. It transforms setbacks into stepping stones. When you stop seeing difficulty as punishment and start seeing it as preparation, you stop resenting growth and start embracing it. Suddenly, life isn't just something happening to you. It's something shaping you into the person you're becoming. Surrounding yourself with the right people also fuels growth. Comfort thrives in circles that keep you small, where everyone enables each other's excuses. Growth thrives in environments where people challenge you, push you, and inspire you to rise higher. If you want to be happy, you need to be around people who believe in growth, people who call you out when you're settling, who remind you of your potential, and who celebrate your progress, not just your comfort. Here's the bottom line. Comfort will give you ease, but growth will give you pride. Comfort will keep you safe, but growth will make you strong. Comfort might numb you, but growth will awaken you. And when you look back at your life, happiness won't come from the days you stayed comfortable. It will come from the days you took risks, pushed limits, and became someone you didn't know you could be. So ask yourself right now, where are you choosing comfort over growth? Where are you settling instead of stretching? Where are you playing small when you know you're capable of more? Happiness doesn't come from staying the same. It comes from evolving. And every time you choose growth, you're not just building a stronger life, you're building a happier one. Every single day you wake up, you're handed two choices. You can drift through life on autopilot, letting circumstances, other people, and outside forces decide how you feel. Or you can step into your power and choose happiness on purpose. Not the surface level kind that fades the second something goes wrong, but the kind that's unshakable, the kind you build from within, the kind no one can take away from you. We've talked about what it really takes. Realizing happiness is an inside job. Mastering your mindset, controlling what you can and releasing what you can't, building habits that fuel joy, and choosing growth over comfort. These aren't just ideas, they are tools. They are choices you get to make every single day. And here's The truth, nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is going to hand you happiness. If you're waiting for someone else to give you permission, stop. You already have everything you need inside of you to create a life that feels good, not just sometimes, but every day. So the question is, what will you do with it? Will you keep chasing happiness outside of yourself? Always moving the goalpost, always waiting for someday? Or will you decide right now that happiness is something you create, something you live, something you claim? Life is short. Tomorrow is not promised. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, or the perfect version of yourself. Happiness starts with the choices you make today. Own your mind, own your habits, own your growth, and watch how your life transforms. Happiness isn't out there, it's in here. It's in you. And the day you fully claim that truth is the day you stop surviving and start truly living.